This story is titled, "She Didn't Even See Me Anymore." So one morning, I disappeared without a word. I'm not even sure why I'm writing this. Maybe I'm trying to make sense of it all, or maybe it's just because I've run out of people to talk to. Or maybe, just maybe, it's because of the note I found this morning, stuffed in the freezer of all places. It was just a crumpled receipt for dish soap and oat milk, but it reminded me of a time when my wife used to leave me sweet little notes like that. She had this habit of scribbling goofy messages on whatever was lying around and hiding them in the weirdest spots. Once, she wrote, "I miss your dumb face," on the back of a gas station receipt and slipped it into my sock drawer. That was 4 years ago, give or take. I haven't heard her voice in 11 days, no word in passing, no whisper of frustration, not even a mistake. My name's Lowell, I'm 42, from Maryland, and I used to be married to a woman named Margo. I say used to, even though the paperwork still says we are. She still wears her wedding ring. I still pay the gas bill. But if you asked me when I actually lost her, I wouldn't say it was last week or even last year. I'd tell you it was the night she stopped correcting me. Sounds small, doesn't it? But she always used to interrupt me when I mispronounced something or got my facts twisted. It was this little quirk of hers that drove me nuts, and I secretly adored it. But one night last November, I said shif-a-robe when I meant armoire, and she didn't say a word. No eye roll, no teasing correction, nothing. She didn't even glance up from her phone. That's when I first realized I was starting to disappear inside my own home. Now don't get me wrong, I'm no catch. I'm not rich, rugged, charming, or wildly successful. I run a tiny print shop out of what used to be a garage, and I wear orthopedic slippers because my feet are shot. I ramble about stuff no one cares about, like ink viscosity and recycled cardstock. I say sorry too much. I overthink everything. I don't react fast enough when I should. But the one thing I never did was stop loving her. I kept making her coffee every morning, long after she stopped drinking it. I left her side of the bed warm, even when she started falling asleep on the couch. I kept buying that lavender lotion she liked, even though she never touched it again. For a while, I convinced myself it was just a rough patch, work stress, maybe seasonal blues. But the silence grew louder, and her absence started feeling like a permanent presence. Then came the whispers, not from her, but from inside the house. I'd walk past the closed bathroom door and hear her voice, soft and low, but not speaking to me, to someone else. I'd knock. She'd flush and go. What? Like I'd interrupted something sacred. One night, I caught her laughing on the balcony at midnight. I asked what was so funny. She said, "Nothing you'd understand," and walked past me like I wasn't even there. That night, I cried in the closet, quiet enough that she wouldn't hear. And that's the part that still stings, not the tears, but the fact that I felt like I had to hide them. Then came the moment I knew it was really over. No big scene, no screaming, no betrayal you could point at. It was just a Tuesday, rain in the forecast. I was reheating leftover spaghetti in the microwave when she walked in, looked right through me, and said to the dog, "Let's go, Benny." That was it. No greeting, no glance, not even a flicker of acknowledgement. I could have been a coat rack, and she walked out with the dog like I wasn't even in the room. I stood there, spaghetti going cold, heart aching in the stupidest way, not because she ignored me, but because she used to ask if I wanted iced tea when it rained. That night, I lay awake staring up at the ceiling fan. It spun like always, but something inside me had stopped moving. I didn't explode, didn't shout, didn't throw a bag together, or slam a door. I just felt empty, not shattered, just done. And the next morning, before the sun came up, I did something I never thought I'd have the guts to do. I pulled that crumpled receipt out of the freezer, the last note I'd ever gotten from her, even if it wasn't meant to be, and set it gently on her pillow. Then I walked out the front door with a single duffel bag and no clue where I was headed. No goodbye letter, no final message, no dramatic exit. I left. I disappeared. But I didn't vanish completely, because what happened after that, that's when it started getting weird. At first, I didn't go far, just down the road to a rundown motel off Route 4, the kind of place where the clerk doesn't ask questions and the vending machine hums louder than the TV. I sat on the edge of that rock-hard mattress for almost an hour before it hit me. I forgot to pack socks, or toothpaste, or a charger. Didn't matter. I hadn't planned on staying long anyway. I figured I'd go back after a couple days, after she realized I was gone, after she called, after she asked me why. But 3 days passed. Then 5. Nothing, no calls, no messages, not a single friend checking in for her. I started to wonder if maybe she was relieved. Maybe my silence was the space she'd been craving all along. And as pathetic as it sounds, that hurt more than anything else. The thought that she might have walked through the house that morning, realized I was gone, and smiled. Still, I kept checking the shared calendar app, hoping maybe she left a note or added something. But there was nothing, just one old event. Lowell's birthday dinner, reschedule? That one cut deep. It had been rescheduled 3 times already, then quietly deleted. No new plans. Just gone, like it never meant anything. During the day, I started driving aimlessly, visited the boardwalk where we had our first kiss under a mess of string lights, stopped by the little bookstore downtown where we'd argue about whether biographies or romance novels were more depressing. I even drove past her office once, not to see her, just to remember what it felt like to wait in the car, takeout in hand, excited just to catch a glimpse of her through the window. Then something strange happened, the first thing that made me stop and say, "Wait a second, what the hell is going on?" On the 7th day, I got a text, not from her, but from Emery, an old coworker of mine. We hadn't talked in months. His message said, "Hey man, sorry about everything." That was cold. I blinked at the screen. Cold? What was he talking about? I texted back, "What do you mean?" 5 minutes later he replied, "Didn't realize you two split? Just saw the post." Post? I opened Facebook for the first time in weeks. And there it was, a photo of Margo, grinning, wine glass in hand, at some rooftop party. The caption was from her friend, the one I never liked. "So happy to see Margo glowing again. New chapters, better vibes, clinking glasses." No mention of me. No, we're separated, no hint of hard times. Just glowing, like our 11 years together were some kind of fog she'd finally cleared. I should have been furious, but instead, I laughed, not a healthy laugh, one of those dry, bitter ones that rattles your chest and makes the nightstand shake when you slam your palm against it. Then, I did something stupid. I opened our old group chat, me, Margo, Emery, and a couple of friends we used to vacation with. I scrolled up, saw the old trip photos, us smiling, holding hands, and then a new message, just 3 days ago, from Margo. Finally moving forward. No more pretending. No one replied. They didn't need to. That line just echoed inside me all night. No more pretending. So all this time, she'd been pretending we were still a couple, pretending she still loved me, pretending I still mattered, while slowly erasing me behind my back. But if she thought I'd just disappear forever without a sound, she misjudged me. I wasn't going back to beg or to fight. I went back to see, to understand what the hell really happened, because none of it made sense. You don't just walk away from 11 years without leaving some kind of trail. I knew there was more, I felt it. So I did what any sad, sleep-deprived man with loose shoelaces and a bad haircut might do. I made a list, scribbled it on a napkin, stuff like, "Why second phone never found? Who else is Emery talking to? What's the deal with Margo's new chapter? What am I not seeing?" That night, I lay in bed with the motel light buzzing overhead and stared at the stained ceiling. I wasn't sleeping much these days, just blinking slowly into the dark. Then, at 3:12 a.m., I got up, slipped on my shoes, drove back toward our house, not to knock, not to confront, just to watch. And that's when I saw it, a car I didn't recognize parked in the driveway, lights on inside, a man moving around my kitchen like he belonged there. And Margo? She was out on the porch, laughing. I parked a block away, the kind of shaky park job you do when your heart's beating out of sync with your hands. I cut the engine and sat there, fingers tied around the steering wheel, like it might tell me what the hell I was supposed to do next. My palms were sweaty, not from fear, just the sinking, surreal feeling that I'd stepped into someone else's story. That wasn't my house anymore, it was a stage, and they were the cast performing a scene I'd been written out of. The porch light flickered above her, the same damn strobe I'd offered to fix a dozen times. She always said, "It's fine, Lowell. Not everything has to be fixed." And there she was now, standing under it in the old gray hoodie she used to steal from me, laughing like nothing had ever broken her. No sadness, no confusion, just lightness. Then he stepped out, the guy. Not some muscle-bound gym rat, not a suit anti-banker, just average, taller than me, around my age, dressed casual, confident posture, easy smile. And then he kissed her forehead right there, then walked back inside my house like he'd always belonged, like I'd been erased, and this was the corrected version. I don't know how long I sat there, 10 minutes? 30? An hour? I couldn't say. But eventually, I drove off, not because I didn't want to confront her, but because I knew if I did, she'd flip it. She'd say I was stalking her, that I was unhinged, that I left. And she wouldn't be wrong. I had no case, no footing. So I didn't show up. I started collecting the pieces instead, quietly, carefully. For what? Closure, maybe. Proof I wasn't just losing my mind. Proof that someone else might see what was happening and go, yeah, man, that's messed up. I stayed at the motel another week. Flat, dismissive, like it wasn't worth digging into. Her tone was flat, almost dismissive, like the whole thing wasn't even worth untangling. I found the box, I told her. I figured you would eventually. That made me snap. I found the box, I said. She barely blinked. Figured you would sooner or later. That flipped a switch in me. So you just kept a scrapbook of your betrayal? Like a twisted photo album of how you built a new life on top of the old one? So what was that? I shot back. Some kind of scrapbook of your betrayal? A messed up album showing how you build a new life on the ruins of ours. She crossed her arms, but not defensively, more like she was cold and didn't want to deal with emotion. She folded her arms, not like she was guarding herself, but more like she was cold and didn't want to deal with anything messy or real. You left, Lowell? No, I said sharply. You made me leave. You left, Lowell? Her voice flat. No, I cut in, sharper than I meant to. You made me leave. You stopped speaking. You erased me piece by piece until I didn't recognize myself. You quit talking to me. Bit by bit, you erased me until I couldn't even recognize who I was anymore. I disappeared because I wasn't sure I even existed to you anymore. I didn't walk away. I vanished because I wasn't even sure I mattered to you at all. Silence. She looked at the floor. I didn't mean for it to happen like this, she mumbled. She went quiet. Stared at the floor. I didn't mean for it to end up like this, she mumbled. But it did, I said. And then her face changed. She looked up and asked, so what now? You came here for what? Closure. But it did, I said, and something in her face shifted. She looked up slowly. So, what now? You came here for what? Closure? I looked down at the photo in my hand. I thought of all the years. All the mornings I made her coffee. I glanced down at the photo I was still holding. Years flashed through my mind. Every morning I brought her coffee, just the way she liked it. All the times I sat quietly in a room waiting for her to acknowledge I was still breathing. All those moments I sat in silence, in the same room, hoping she'd at least notice I was still there. Still alive. I came to say goodbye, I said. She blinked like that caught her off guard. I came to say goodbye, I told her. That one landed. She blinked, surprised. And for the first time I saw something crack. Her jaw tensed just a little. I stepped past her slowly. For the first time, I saw a crack form. Her jaw tightened ever so slightly. I stepped around her, slow and steady. She didn't stop me. But just before I reached the front door, she said something soft, almost too soft to hear. You were never the villain in this, Lowell. She didn't try to stop me. But just as I reached for the front door, she spoke, soft, barely above a whisper. You were never the villain in this, Lowell. I stopped, hand on the doorknob. No, I replied, turning slightly. But I sure felt like the ghost. I paused with my hand on the knob. Turned just a little. No, I said. But I sure as hell felt like the ghost. And with that I walked out. For real this time. The air outside hit different after that conversation. Then I walked out for real this time. And the air outside didn't just feel colder, it felt sharper, like something had shifted. It wasn't just colder, it felt sharper, like the whole world had moved on a little without me. It wasn't just the chill, it was the sting, like the world had already moved a step forward without waiting for me to catch up. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. Didn't yell. I just walked to the car and sat there with the door open, trying to figure out what the hell that moment even was. I walked to my car, left the door open, and just sat there, trying to figure out what the hell had just happened. Was it closure? Or just confirmation that I had wasted more time than I wanted to admit? Was that closure? Or just proof I'd wasted more years than I cared to face? I started driving without a destination. I passed the grocery store we used to visit on Sundays. I started driving with nowhere in mind. Past the old grocery store we always hit on Sundays. The diner where we once argued about a movie and ended up laughing so hard we got free pie. That diner came next, the one where we fought over a movie but laughed so hard the waitress gave us pie on the house. All these places used to feel like markers in our story. Now they felt like bad memories attached to scenes I wasn't in anymore. Those spots used to be chapters in our story. Now they felt like old movie sets, memories tied to moments I didn't belong to anymore. When I finally got back to the motel, I tossed the shoebox on the floor and collapsed onto the bed. Back at the motel, I flung the shoebox to the floor and dropped onto the bed like my legs gave out. I was too wired to sleep, but too drained to be awake. Too wound up to sleep, too empty to stay fully awake. I just lay there, staring at the cracked ceiling, thinking about everything she said and everything she didn't. So I just laid there, eyes fixed on the cracked ceiling, replaying all the things she said, and more painfully, the ones she didn't. Around 3 a.m. my phone buzzed. I nearly didn't check it. Around 3 a.m., my phone buzzed. I almost ignored it. I thought it might be another "Are you okay?" from Emery or some spam text from a pharmacy I never visited. Probably another "Are you okay?" from Emery or some junk message from a pharmacy I'd never been to. But it was from her. Margo. One line. But it wasn't. It was from her, Margo. One line. You really don't want to know the whole story, do you? You really don't want to know the whole story, do you? I stared at that message for a long time. Was that bait? Was that guilt? Or was there actually more she hadn't told me? I stared at that text for what felt like forever. Was she baiting me? Guilting me? Or was there actually something more? Against my better judgment, I typed. What does that mean? No reply. Against every warning bell in my head, I typed back. What does that mean? No answer. Nothing. Not that hour, not the next day. It just hung there, unanswered, like everything else between us. Nothing came. Not that night. Not the next day. Just another thing left hanging between us, unfinished. But now my brain was racing. What didn't I know? It was Lincoln, right? That was the betrayal. That was the story. But my mind wouldn't let go. What was I missing? Lincoln. That was the betrayal. That was the whole damn story, right? What else could there be? I couldn't let it go. I started doing something I hadn't done since college, digging. Searching. What else could it possibly be? I couldn't let it rest. I found myself doing something I hadn't done since college, digging. Searching. Looking for anything connected to that man. I looked up his social media. I scrolled through tagged photos, checked mutual friends, read old posts. I looked up everything I could on the guy. Scanned social media, scrolled through tagged pictures, mutual connections, old posts, anything. I didn't even know what I was hoping to find, but then something caught my eye. I didn't even know what I expected, but suddenly something popped out. A photo of him at a holiday party dated over a year ago with his arm around Margo, not just holding her waist like a friend, but intimately, like a man who belonged there. The post wasn't by Margo, but by someone else entirely, a woman named Elise, with the caption, "Back when things were still normal." The words, "Miss you every day, L," stopped me cold, so I clicked her public profile and found a few sad posts, a tribute, confirming Lincoln had died 5 months ago in a car accident. So who was in my kitchen? I sat up so fast I nearly knocked over the motel lamp, my hand shaking as I double-checked the dates, the tags, the obituary linked in Elise's post, and there was no denying it. Lincoln Mayfield, the man I thought I'd seen kissing my wife, had died in a highway collision almost half a year ago. It was real. There was a candlelight vigil, news coverage, condolences from coworkers, everything archived in the cold permanence of the internet. So who the hell had I followed home? I racked my brain trying to remember details, tearing through my memory for anything I'd missed. Had Margo ever said his last name? Or had I just filled in the blanks when I saw the badge clipped to the man's bag? Could that ID have belonged to someone else? A reused lanyard? A borrowed bag? The more I thought about it, the more I realized I had made assumptions that no longer made sense. And then her message echoed in my mind again. You really don't want to know the whole story, do you? But now, I did, more than ever. There was no greeting or small talk when she sat down and said it straight. I know you think I was cheating. I looked at her and said, I saw him, Margo. I saw you with him. You think you did, she said, a line twisting something deep in my gut. He's not who you think he is, she continued, slower now. And I didn't tell you because I honestly thought you couldn't handle the truth. She paused, took a breath. But you left. You walked away. So maybe now you deserve to hear it. I waited, watching her stare into her coffee, tapping her nails against the ceramic cup, before she finally said, his name is Eric, not Lincoln. I blinked. What? He's my half-brother, she said. Same father, different lives. I didn't even know he existed until last year, after our dad died. He left us both letters and said he wanted us to meet. So we did. Quietly. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to explain the mess. And when you started pulling away, I figured, what's the point? My head was spinning. You could have told me. You wouldn't have understood. Try me. Her voice sharpened. You disappeared, Lowell. She looked right at me, her tone raw. I was trying to figure out who I was outside of being your wife, and then suddenly, This whole other family history got dumped in my lap. You think that was easy? You think I didn't struggle with it? I wanted to fight back, wanted to be angry, but honestly, I didn't even know what I was mad about anymore. The lies, the silence, or the fact that maybe I'd imagined a betrayal that never actually happened. So what about the photos? I finally asked. Her jaw tightened. Eric helped me dig into our dad's history. That park, that restaurant, those were places he used to go. We visited them, took pictures. I kept the box because I was trying to understand where I came from. I wasn't replacing you. I studied her face, listened to every word, trying to make sense of what felt true and what didn't. And that night on the porch? I asked. You looked like you were on a date. She actually laughed. Lowell, he tripped over Benny's leash and nearly face-planted into the grill. I laughed because it was ridiculous. It sounded so normal, so painfully innocent, and suddenly, everything I thought I knew unraveled, like I'd created this narrative of a cheating wife just because the idea of her quietly drifting away from me hurt more than betrayal. I don't know what to do with this, I said, barely above a whisper. She looked at me, softer now. You don't have to do anything. But maybe stop pretending you were the only one hurting. I didn't say goodbye, just walked out of the cafe, mind buzzing with guilt and confusion. I'd run from a betrayal that maybe never happened, and in doing so, maybe I betrayed her by never asking, never listening, never wondering what she was going through. But that night, just as I was trying to fall asleep at the motel, my phone rang, blocked number. I answered, and a man's voice came through, low and calm. You should stop asking questions about Eric, for your own good. Then silence. I stared at the phone long after the line went dead, the screen glowing faintly in the dark. My first instinct was denial, a prank, maybe, wrong number, but he said the name, Eric. And that voice wasn't joking. It was cold, steady, like someone used to making quiet threats and never being challenged. I didn't sleep, didn't even lie down. I paced the room, replaying every conversation I'd had with Margo, every memory of the man I saw in our kitchen. Was there more to this story than she'd told me? By morning, paranoia had layered itself over exhaustion. I opened my laptop and went digging, not just social media this time, but property records, court databases, anything I could find. I found nothing connecting an Eric Mayfield to Margo, but I did find something else, a restraining order from 5 years ago. The woman? Elise Dunn, the same Elise who posted that tribute to Lincoln. The man? Eric Langston. The charges? Harassment, impersonation, suspected identity fraud. I stared at the screen. Why would Margo call him Mayfield? Was she covering for him, or still hiding something from me? My stomach turned. I printed everything I could, then drove straight to that cafe. Knowing she'd be there, she always stopped in mid-morning on Fridays. When she walked in and saw me, she looked surprised, but not scared, which bothered me more than anything. You said his name was Mayfield. I told her flatly, skipping any kind of preamble. She tensed. What are you doing? I slid the papers across the table. This is who you've been spending time with. This is who you let into our house. She glanced down, and what I saw on her face wasn't shock or defiance, it was shame. I didn't know at first, she said quietly. He told me his name was Mayfield. Said he found me through our dad's will. Knew things only someone from the family could have known. So why not tell me when you found out the truth? Her eyes dropped. Because by then it was already too late. He'd gotten in my head. Made me question everything. My memories. My past. Even us. She exhaled shakily. And when I finally saw him for what he was, I figured maybe I deserved it. For all the things I didn't tell you. That hit me harder than anything. Not because it excused anything, but because it made everything so damn human. Why didn't you go to the police? I tried. Once. But there wasn't enough to stick. He's careful. Doesn't leave a trace. Never crosses the line. Just hovers close enough to ruin you from the inside. Then her eyes met mine. He called you, didn't he? I nodded. Her whole expression changed. Then we need to stop pretending this is just about hurt feelings. He's not finished. We left together, and for the first time in months, we weren't caught in silence. We were caught in something deeper, a storm we couldn't yet see the end of. But when we got to her house, we both froze. The front door was wide open, and on the front steps sat the shoebox, the one I thought I'd left in the bedroom. Empty. It was like a quiet siren. No broken glass, no forced entry, nothing obviously missing, but it was off. You could feel it. Margo and I moved through the house room by room. Everything was where it should have been. Except the box. Except the feeling that someone had been inside with purpose and precision. He wanted us to see it, she whispered. It's a message. I nodded. He knows. And he doesn't care. But for the first time, I didn't feel powerless. I wasn't that lost, hurt man anymore, and Margo? She wasn't my enemy. She was someone else who'd been tangled in something way bigger than either of us. That night, we didn't talk about Eric. We didn't analyze or dig. We just sat on the couch, the same one I used to crash on during the worst of it, and we talked about the space that had grown between us, about the things we didn't say when we should have. She cried. So did I. There weren't grand apologies or promises, just honesty, and that was more than we'd had in years. The next morning, she filed another police report. This time, I backed her with everything I'd found, documents, text logs, the phone call. It wasn't a lot, but it was enough to open a case, to put his name down officially. A week later, we left the house. Didn't sell it, just walked away. A friend of hers had a quiet place upstate, and that's where we landed. Not as husband and wife. Exactly. Just two people who survived something twisted together. We both started seeing counselors, separately. We didn't rush into anything. Didn't label it. Some nights we shared dinner, some nights we didn't speak, but it wasn't cold. It was real, respectful, honest. And somewhere in that quiet, that slow healing, we found a kind of peace. Not perfect, but real. Months later, sitting on the porch of that little cabin, watching the leaves start to turn, I asked her, "Do you ever think about going back?" She smiled. Not to that house, but maybe somewhere new. Somewhere that's ours. I nodded. We never saw Eric again. Maybe the case scared him off. Or maybe he just moved on to someone else. But I learned something important. Sometimes, the people you think are betraying you are just as lost as you are, and the truth is never as simple as it seems. I still have the shoebox, now locked in a safe. It's a reminder of the mess, the pain, and the way tangled lives can become, how fragile trust is, but also how strong it can be when it's earned again. And that's the story. Or at least, the part I'm ready to tell.